Hello everyone, we have a very special guest today, Air Marshal SP Dharkar, Air Officer Commanding-in-Chief, Eastern Air Command. He has been recently awarded with Param Vishish Seva Medal by the Honorable President of India. Air Marshal SP Dharkar is an alumnus of the Air Force Academy, Rashtriya Indian Military College Dehradun, National Defence Academy Pune, Defence Services Staff College Wellington, and Air War College USA. He has flying experience of over 3,600 hours on variety of fighter planes. He is also a qualified flying instructor, fighter strike leader, and instrument rating instructor, an examiner also. He has also been an Air Force examiner. During his illustrious career, he has commanded in frontline fighter squadron and fighter flying training establishment. He has also instructional experience in conducting professional military education at Defence Services Staff College and College of Air Warfare, Secunderabad. We are happy to have you, sir. And today we will be learning more about what the recent initiatives have been from Indian Air Force, more so in Eastern Air Command. And I would like to know from you, sir, how do you envision Indian Air Force in the recent rapidly evolving global security landscape?
That's an interesting question. Well, firstly, thank you so very much for having me here. And let me jump right into what you mentioned. You and our viewers are also adequately aware that the global landscape itself is evolving at a very fast pace, whether it is because of technology or whether it is simply because of geopolitical developments all across. But it's a continuously changing landscape. And if you look at what happens here in our neighborhood, we are also not isolated from what is happening all across the globe. And we face all various kinds of challenges, whether it comes through from just the security environment, or whether it comes as a result of food security, climate and weather change, and all around. Add to it in terms of human migration and exodus from some difficult spots across the globe. All in all, we are in a very challenging set of circumstances in very challenging times. And here, as you can see in Eastern Air Command also, we have some of these that manifest themselves almost on a regular basis, even in this particular area of responsibility of the EAC. Let's start with just the basics. Given the nature of terrain that we have here, given the fact that Eastern Air Command is bound by 5 different countries, and the fact that we have terrain starting from the coastline near Kolkata, all the way up to heights of more than 20,000 feet across the Himalayas in the north, we have an entirely varied plethora of challenges that we face here. Then the Brahmaputra Valley, as you are well familiar, has always been experiencing the result of weather phenomena, and floods, etc., are very common here. Add to that landslides that take place in the mountainous regions, and you have different challenges of all kinds.
Thank you, sir. You have mentioned the measures that have been taken. And can you just mention a few initiatives that has been taken in Eastern Air Command, particularly for increasing the capacities and the readiness of Indian Air Force?
Well, you would notice that infrastructure development in the northeastern region, in these 8 states, has been relatively slow, at least in the 20th century. With the 21st century and the recognition that of the importance that this particular landmass has, of course, infrastructure development here has started off at a much more accelerated pace in the recent 2 decades or so. Out of that also, even before that, we have a situation now where the Air Force here has been providing significant service to the population here even prior. And that has only continued to increase with new assets that we have, as also with some new initiatives that have been taken both at the Air Force level as well as, more importantly, from the government. Whether it be in terms of the nature of connectivity that we have here, and when I talk about connectivity, it's about road and rail infrastructure that is increasing at a rapid pace, or whether it is about connectivity in terms of networking and bringing them onto the communications map. All in all, there have been significant developments here. If you look at the number of airfields and airports that have been opened, the possibility of more helicopter services, and simply the reach that the Air Force is providing to various isolated portions in this particular landscape, we have been contributing significantly in that regard.
Sir, you have been an inspiration for the youths here. So can you just mention a few inspiring events in your life which has helped you in your leadership philosophy, sir?
Well, that's an interesting question. I've been in military uniform from the age of 11 when I joined the RIMC in 1976. From then on, actually, it has been a rather exciting ride. And in terms of inspiring experiences, I guess I've been most inspired by my instructors all the way till I got commissioned. And thereafter, I have been touched by a number of leaders at various levels who've taught me along the way about what the military was all about. And I guess that in itself was an inspiration of sorts. If I'm to look at, I actually would not like to, take significant or singular names in that regard because there have been so many of them. But in terms of inspiration, I guess what really inspires us is what you see in terms of raw courage, exemplified by so many of our seniors and so many of our colleagues who've fought through all kinds of really difficult odds and at times made the supreme sacrifice and yet have done it almost smilingly. I guess that is what inspires us to go on. And in that regard, I guess that is what continues to inspire the youth that join, those that are around, and including, I expect, those that are going to join us in the future.
Okay, sirs, you have already mentioned about the bordering countries that Northeast shares. Most of these are porous boundaries. So can you just mention few initiatives that have been taken to significantly improve the security situation in the region?
While you call them porous boundaries, fact does remain that we have lots of person-to-person contact across these borders. Many of these neighbors, our nation as a whole enjoys very good relations with most of these neighbors, and that itself is not a challenge. The challenge comes up as a result of the nature of terrain that pertains here. And so towards that, I guess the government also is making significant strides in increasing our practical connectivity to these regions. And that itself is going to make a big difference in improving the security landscape here. Add to that the capability of the Air Force that has improved in terms of the nature of sensors that we have, the nature of sensors in the air that we can put. And that adds to our ability to ensure that these borders are adequately well guarded. And it's only going to improve in days to come.
Sir, Atmanirbhar Bharat is the on thing now. So what are your views on Atmanirbhar Bharat in defense sector?
Let's look at the entire globe if you look carefully, and we'll start from somewhere almost half a century ago at the end of the Second World War. When you start looking at the developed countries of today, they've got here as a result of their having developed their own capabilities, both in terms of technology, design, and manufacture. Anybody who does not achieve Atmanirbharta in this regard lays open the opportunity for a different nation to direct as well as control its entire panoply of events, whether it be on internal matters or external. Which means then that if we hope to achieve practical, true independence, Atmanirbharta is of essence to us. Yes, within that, the ability to quickly leapfrog and catch up with much of the rest of the world, or at least the rest of the developed world, in managing to achieve technological capability is an important part also, towards which some amount of sourcing from outside, transfer of technology, transfer of manufacturing technology, a little bit of assistance in research and development, and then followed by practical manufacturing and own development, I guess is the way to go. And that is what the government also is focusing on. So if you look at the recent initiatives in terms of increasing the defense corridors, defense manufacturing, research and development, I guess all that push will place us correctly on that map in the next 2-3 decades or so. And I think that is the way to go.
Sir, you have correctly mentioned most of the things. So do you feel that Atmanirbhar initiatives of India will impact on the arms import also?
Oh, without a doubt. Because when you look at the whole security landscape, I guess anywhere, anything that we manage to enhance our own security capabilities would be assisted by own manufacturing, development and design. And that is where we are going now. So whether it is the Tejas as regards an aircraft, whether it is development or manufacture or building of our own ships and submarines, whether it is all kinds of internal initiatives that we are taking. And now the recent ones to have transfer of critical technologies, for example, engine design, aircraft engine design. All this would contribute towards our own capabilities, and it would help us actually achieve self-reliance in that. I guess that is the correct way forward.
Sir, you have been the Assistant Chief of Air Staff Training. What are your views on the recent revolutionary steps that government has taken, the Agnipath scheme, and the first batch, I think it has come out. Yes. So how are they doing in the field, sir?
They're doing wonderfully. Actually, if you look at the Agnipath scheme, it is also a follow-on to various other initiatives that the government has taken, whether it is the skill development initiative, whether it is the change in the national education policy. And all in all, it is about increasing the capacity and capability of our youth, that large segment that is actually going to take the country forward. When you look at that mechanism and you look at those in the light of the Agnipath scheme, you will recognize that the Agnipath scheme itself provides wonderful opportunity to a larger segment of people to pursue other disciplines after having spent some amount of time within the armed forces. It also allows the armed forces the opportunity to retain the cream of those particular youth that join into further careers in the armed forces itself. So it's a win-win situation for both sides. And while they are in the Agnipath scheme, it allows them the opportunity to build on their own educational and skill capabilities, as also give them a particular educational background to go along with it. So it's a wonderful scheme in that regard. And just yesterday, the portal for the ability for the Agniveers to now actually improve their own skill grades and their own educational qualifications while they are in service has just been opened yesterday, which is, I think, a wonderful initiative. So at the end of it, even those that do not revert to being retained in the armed forces itself will actually end up in being a significant contributor to society. And that itself is a big thing.
Sir, I believe that Agniveer Bayus will do wonders in Indian Air Force, and we will see them performing very well in the days to come.
Absolutely.
Sir, as many of us know, you were the first director of Defence Space Agency. We had seen that the recent launch of Chandrayaan to the moon. What are its implications in the defense sector, sir? And how far defense can exploit the space developments that have happened in the recent time?
When Chandrayaan lands on the moon, we'll be one of 4 countries that has an object on the moon's surface. That itself is a major milestone. Of course, this is not something new for ISRO. ISRO came into existence in the early 60s, in 1963, if I recollect correctly. And from then, ISRO has done some really stellar job in the space sector. It has even taken a satellite across to Mars. So when you look at the capacity of ISRO, what the space domain offers in terms of improved security for the country, space as a domain itself has lots of opportunities. Of course, it doesn't come without its cost and challenges, but then we have been doing exceptionally well in our own manner in the past. And I expect that with every step that we take to the future, we will also establish our own presence in this particular domain. Towards what it does in practical security for India, while the Chandrayaan project itself may not be directly responsible for enhancing safety and security, the fact remains that the technologies that we use in order to put Chandrayaan onto the moon can also have secondary and technologies aside that would help us or enable us further in the space domain. And we look forward to that. And of course, the collaboration between ISRO and the defense forces has always been stellar in the past, and I expect it will only improve in times to come.
So your views on militarization of the space, sir?
Militarization of space is it actually has started on the first very day when somebody put a satellite up in the sky. Because when you look at what the space domain offers, whether it is in terms of its ability at ISR, that means intelligence reconnaissance and surveillance, or whether it is in terms of the ability to use a rocket to place an object in space, because finally a rocket is a rocket and a ballistic missile also is a rocket. So the technologies over there in both these domains are rather overlapping. Space technology can be used for peaceful means. Space technology can be thereafter employed for prosecution of a war campaign, which means then that actually militarization of space started right in the beginning. In practical terms, it is about whether there are weapons in space where the little differentiation comes about. And of course, laws are also evolving in this regard. And I expect that as a signatory or as a participant to good order and discipline in the world order, I guess we will also follow absolutely in tune with whatever are the legal connotations of all those laws. So militarization of space, whether it be depending upon the nature in which space is to be utilized, remains to be seen.
Sir, artificial intelligence is the on thing now. Everyone is talking about artificial intelligence. With the setting up of the Strategic Support Force, China is among the first to have introduced AI-based military strategic support force. So, sir, how can India have a similar kind of a thing? Can India also think about using AI-based security thing, AI-based applications in the military sector?
Some of these new technologies, whether it be AI or machine learning or quantum, these are evolving technologies. Technology is evolving at a very rapid pace. India cannot afford to be left behind any which way. But are we there yet? In the sense, would we today have some kind of artificial intelligence-based decision-making matrices? Probably not. Will we be going there? Possibly yes. But can I give you a definitive answer as to when we would get there? Is a very difficult question. I'm not really certain we'll go there. But in its own manner, every method in which we involve more and more computerization, more and more data management in the defense forces itself is in its own way contributory to improved decision making. And the amount of importance given to automated decision making, to decision enabling, is where the differentiation comes up. No matter how you look at it, there is always an incremental amount of automated suggestion, if not decision making, in every process that is now being built. And as we go on, I'm sure at some stage more and more automation will be seen in this regard. And towards that, I'm very confident that we will also be probably going along the same route, at least sometime in the future, if not tomorrow.
Thank you, sir. So, sir, your views on combat drones, swarm drones, or MQB-9, as you say, or kamikaze, sir? What are your views, sir?
All such things like drones, UAVs, and the like are only reflecting the changing landscape of warfare. Wars and warfare has been evolving. If you look at the war starting all the way from the Iraq war, none of them have actually followed what was expected. Whether it was the Iraq war, the war on terror, the war in Afghanistan, the Russo-Ukraine campaign, you constantly observe that none of them actually have stood in with what was earlier doctrine or earlier thought process on how wars would shape up. Considering that it is changing, look at the Russo-Ukraine campaign now. We are now in the month of August of 2023, and it all started in February of 2022. One had expected that wars in the modern day would be short. This is by no means short. And when you look at the nature of warfare itself and the kind of technology that is being used to proliferate the campaign, it is also constantly evolving. So UAVs, drones, unmanned vehicles of all nature, whether it is in drones being deployed from aircraft, whether it is swarms of drones, it all is constantly observing evolution. And one expects that with the changing landscape in AI, machine learning, quantum mechanics, proliferation of space, this is only going to improve more and more. It's going to change. Drones, swarm drones and all that is going to remain a challenge. It's going to become more and more a challenge as we go on. And yes, the armed forces are seized of the matter. The government is seized of the matter. And we are also making our own initiatives in terms of utilizing such capabilities as also building capabilities to prevent their outright use by an adversary. And I guess this kind of a cat and mouse game will continue to grow, it will continue to evolve, and we'll have to simply stay in tune with the times in order to ensure that our own capabilities are adequately matched up.
Sir, the government has also brought about various regulations in terms of using drones by the civilians. But still, do you feel that there are more to be done because there are threats while using drones where people should not use drones?
I shall answer that question as a yes and no. You would have, at some gathering, maybe at a wedding, you would have seen that there's a drone camera being used to capture images of the wedding. That drone camera itself has a small payload of a camera, maybe just about 200 grams of a camera. But the fact remains that that drone, if flown by the same person without the camera, with a small device attached to it, which can thereafter be flown in an area where it is not to be flown, can happen without too much of oversight or control. So yes, legislation is important. More importantly, enforcement and ensuring that whatever legislation is made is being exceeded or adhered to is the important part. And towards that, like I said, everybody from local law enforcement to the armed forces come into play over there. And it has to be by good collaborative action that we will have to look at how to prevent the incorrect use of such new technologies to ensure safety and security.
Sir, initially you have mentioned about the youths of the Northeast. So for the youths of Meghalaya, what will be your message for securing a bright future in Indian Air Force?
Okay, as regards the youth of Meghalaya joining the armed forces, having been here now for some reasonable amount of time, it is my firm belief that the typical youth in Meghalaya, and that includes boys and girls, are a very confident lot. They are extremely good at communication, they are outgoing, most of them appear to be in exceptional health, and that itself, I guess, makes them prime candidates for good service and good capabilities in the armed forces. And given the opportunities that are available now, given the fact that infrastructure is developing, that there is enough outreach in terms of education and the like, I am confident that they will make use of such opportunities, and we will see more and more of them in the armed forces in times to come.
Sir, your views on the readiness of in armed forces, in all the three branches of the armed forces. Your views, sir.
Readiness, we are always ready.
Okay, sir. Sir, the aerial display of Indian Air Force is a major attraction in this region. Sir, any plans for aerial display in this region?
Definitely. What we have in mind at the moment is we shall just wait for the monsoons to get over, and we would definitely be doing something. In fact, we are looking forward to doing at least a small display in the next 2-3 days right here over Guwahati and over Kokrajhar, alongside the initial inaugural matches of the Durand Cup, which is also being hosted by the services in this region.
Sir, what will be your advice to the Indian Air Force young officers who are dreaming to become the leader in the Indian Air Force?
The armed forces have a very steep pyramidal structure. So my advice to young officers is rather simple. It is in 3 parts. 1 is work hard, stay focused, and don't stop learning.
Sir, your message for Har Ghar Tiranga campaign, sir.
Do I strictly have a message? I don't really have a message, but if you go back to when we were children, I'm certain when we went around on Independence Day or Republic Day, waving the Indian flag, it really felt good. I'm certain this Har Ghar Tiranga campaign actually builds on that kind of the feeling that we got at that time. And it allows every citizen of this country to feel proud about the flag, to feel proud about the country. And it evokes all kind of patriotic feelings when people have this opportunity. So I'm certain it allows us to feel today something that possibly we felt only on Independence Day or Republic Day in olden times. And I'm so certain that it provides much greater patriotic fervor today than in the past.
The government is going to celebrate the campaign Meri Mati Mera Desh. Sir, your message on this campaign, sir? I'm
certain that this campaign also is taking further previous campaigns that we've had in the recent past, wherein the Honorable Prime Minister has told us about his Panch Pran, or whether it is about improving our ecological footprint in terms of planting trees and improving green cover, or whether it is about remembering our brave hearts who in the past have given flesh and blood towards ensuring that we have independence and democracy that we enjoy today. Or as we go on further, and in terms of making every Indian feel proud simply to wave the national flag, essentially to improve our feeling of being participative in democracy, of us being patriotic, and feeling proud to be an Indian, both today and as we go into the future.
Thank you, sir, for sparing your valuable time. So here we had with us Air Marshal SP Dharkar. He had spoken in details the recent initiatives by Indian Air Force, especially in Eastern Air Command. He has also inspired the youths to join Indian Air Force, especially from Meghalaya. He has also spoken in details about Atmanirbhar Bharat, Agnipath scheme, and we hope that we will be meeting again, sir, for getting more insight into the new initiatives that the Indian Air Force will take in the days to come.